I love being Generation X. It's the coolest cohort in my opinion. It's not just me that thinks so, but today I'm diving into something that's been, well, it's been on my mind and might have been on many of yours too, especially if you're part of this so-called forgotten generation, Generation X. I'm talking about retirement. Yeah, I know, that's hard to believe, isn't it? Us Gen Xers, party animals of the 90s. That's what's next for us. And some of us, it started. Or is it next? You know, that dream of kicking back, enjoying life after decades of work. But for us Gen Xers, born roughly between 1965 and 1980, the path to that dream seems to be, well, a bit of a minefield. A little bit fraught, to say the least. Some are even calling it a perfect storm of financial challenges. Does any of this resonate with you? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, if you're new to my channel, or maybe you're one of the 82% of people who watched my last video but haven't yet subscribed, do it now. Why don't you hit that subscribe button, toggle that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I upload videos like this. Anyway, back to Gen X, and I've got 99 problems, but so who are we? Gen X. You know, we're the kids of the 70s and the 80s, growing up with 80s action movies in our teens, when pop music was at its peak with MTV, John Hughes movies, Back to the Future. And then when we were in our 20s, you know, rave culture and partying hard, mad for it. Big box, little box, big box, little box. Put it in the comments down below if you know what I'm talking about there. I mean, we had a punk band named after us and even a novel. And now we're in our mid-40s or late 50s, as in my case. That's traditionally our peak earning years. But here's a sobering thought. Did you know that studies show that only around 28% of us are actually on track for what's considered comfortable retirement? 28%. That's nearly 1 in 4. Things ain't looking so good for the coolest generation. And it gets more significant. Around 17% of people worry they may never be able to fully retire, and it gets even more concerning. And a whopping 78% believe they simply won't have enough money saved to stop working. I mean, that's a heavy thought. And yeah, I made these infographics all by myself. Thank you very much. It's called research. You're welcome. Why is this happening? You know, you might be wondering, how the hell did we get here? It's not just one thing, it's a combination of pressures. First up, many of us are part of what's known as the sandwich generation. I don't mean that kid with the stinky egg sandwich at the back of the coach trip. No. Sound familiar? We're sandwiched between supporting our growing or growing up children, think university fees, help with house deposits, maybe even their first car, and at the same time, looking after our aging parents, which can mean anything from contributing to their living costs to funding expensive care or support and stuff like that. Many of the people I talk to of my generation and people in the comments talk about how they're kind of looking after their parents or parent. We've become the bank of mum and dad and the bank of son and daughter, all at once. I mean, you can see here, 32% provide financial support to adult children over 18, 9% financially support elderly parents living with them, 15% perform regular caring duties for parents, often impacting work. I mean, I'd like to say I'm lucky enough, although that's completely the wrong phrase in the circumstances, but both my parents, you know, are dead. But having 2 kids nearly at the end of their education, it's a huge financial burden, an emotional drain, during which should be our prime saving years. So if I had to deal with both, whew. And then if you're in a couple, imagine you always feel obligated to support the in-laws if they're nice people, of course you do. So with all of that, are you feeling the pinch? I mean, I hear stories all the time. People who comment on my videos about having to look after their aging parents. The kids might have flown the nest. You might have had a few years or a short period of respite without any of that. But then next, it's your aging parents or the aging parents-in-law you're having to look after. People are living longer. I mean, they looked after you or they looked after your partner, so you feel obliged. What, comes around, goes around. Whilst I was devastated at losing my, dad just before I was 40, sometimes I think it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, I miss him still, 17 odd years later. I think I channeled all my love into my kids, and probably still do, to give them the best platform in life. I mean, as a parent, it's only natural, isn't it? Then there are the pension problems. This is the big one. We're the generation that largely missed out on those gold-plated defined benefit pensions, you know, final salary schemes our parents or older colleagues might have had, where you knew what you were getting. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I am on a defined benefits pension scheme, but that's quite rare. Most of us are on defined contribution schemes. They're like DIY pensions. The outcome depends on how much is paid in and how well those investments do. That's a lot more risk and uncertainty on our shoulders. As I said, I'm lucky that I was on a defined benefit pension scheme, one of the last few. I know some exist in the civil service and public sector type jobs and stuff like that, but companies are doing their best to get rid of them for new starters because, well, they're unsustainable in today's climate. You know, see my video at retiring at 70. Even my original pension changed from being a final salary pension scheme to a career salary average scheme. And then it changed to something else while I was contributing to it. And then, of course, there's auto-enrolment. It's been a great initiative for the younger generation or people who are starting out in their careers. They're getting more people to start saving earlier. But for many Gen Xers, it all arrived too late to make up for those lost years of contributions and that all-important compound interest growth. About 30% of us feel it just didn't come in time to significantly impact our savings. I had 10 years of missed pension opportunities at 2 companies I worked for those 10 years. And annoyingly, both companies had a great pension scheme. Regrets, I've had a few. And let's not forget the economic roller coaster and the cost of living crunch that we've been living through. Our working lives have been hit by multiple recessions, like the big one in 2008 to 2013, which struck right when many of us were trying to build careers and earn more money. For some, that meant job losses, wage freezes, putting pension contributions on hold. It's a habit that's hard to restart once you're not paying a pension. Then, if you're in the UK, you have 15 years of economic mismanagement, the impact of Brexit, the growing cost of living, the energy crisis, all of that. I mean, our wages haven't exactly skyrocketed, have they? Especially when you compare them to bonkers rise in house prices, which, again, in the UK, is especially crazy in London and the South East. Many of us ended up with bigger mortgages eating up more of our income than our predecessors, the previous generation. And as I said, and then there's the general cost of everything. Education for the kids, energy bills dramatically rising, which, to be honest, has been shocking, excuse the pun, in the last few years. I mean, you name it. Finding any spare cash for retirement savings feels like a constant battle. It's interesting to look at how we compare to other generations. Baby boomers, right? Thank God I'm not a boomer. Joke. 1946 to 1964. Now, they often, as I said, benefited from defined benefit pensions and then a massive boom in housing wealth, which for many acts as a retirement cushion. I mean, yes, in the early 1970s, people argue, yeah, but interest rates were 15%. But a person on an average wage could comfortably afford a house in London that was probably 3 times their annual salary and bring up a family. Cut to 20, 30 years later, and you're sitting on £1 million house. Though, obviously, it's important to say, not all boomers are living the high life in retirement. I get it, I understand. They too are suffering from economic circumstances. And then you have the millennials. Oh, the sweet, sweet millennials. 1981 to 1996. They've got their own set of challenges, without a doubt. Huge student debts, especially in the UK, that didn't really exist, and even tougher housing market, as I said. So, yeah, it's not easy for millennials, but the key difference is many of them started auto-enrolment into pensions much earlier into their careers, giving their savings a longer time to potentially grow. In fact, more research here, a higher percentage of millennials are reportedly on track for a comfortable retirement than Gen Xers. And us Gen Xers, well, we're caught in the middle, aren't we? Often missing the best of both worlds. I know I wasted at least 10 years of not having a pension when I first started work. Yeah, it's my fault, but I was young and foolish. But auto-enrolment wasn't a thing. And when you're young, you are often foolish. I lived in London with all the things that brings in terms of being a young 20-something, living the life. I didn't think I had enough money for a pension or savings. That's for later, man. But yeah, sure, I regret that. Wise people often say that when you budget, the first things that you should do is budget the savings, yeah? Take out an element for the savings first, put that aside before anything else, and then work out all the rest for your cost of living and how you're going to live on the rest. I remember in my late 20s, there was a young intern, nice lad, about 20, still lived at home, his first job and all of that. And his father told him, if you're going to live at home, you need to put £400 a month in savings away every month. And that was back in the late 90s, so it was probably nearly a fifth of his salary. But wise advice from his dad, because the compound interest that will earn over the 20, 30 years of his life, working life, it's going to be a lot. Then also, I wish I'd got on the housing ladder earlier. But again, based on conventional wisdom at the time, I didn't think I could afford it because it was like 3 times your annual salary, but my annual salary wasn't quite enough. Of course, what I didn't realise is that at that time, mortgage companies were beginning to give 4 times, 5 times, even more than your annual salary. But I didn't realise. I just read the basic paperwork that said, 3 times your annual salary is how much mortgage you can get. I remember a flat near me was around 80k. And at the time, 3 times my salary wasn't enough. So I assumed. 5 years later, a similar flat in the area cost me 225k. I just checked. Those flats are now 600k plus for 2 bedrooms. So yeah, just buying 5 years before I did would have made a massive difference. Still, I partied hard, man, had fun. At least I've got the memories. Although, if truth be owned, I don't. I was very, very drunk. They say that the most popular conversation in Britain is always about the weather. Well, I tell you what the second most favourite conversation is. How much you bought your house for and how much it's worth now. I hear what you're saying. It all sounds a bit grim, Clive. I hear you, yeah? But here's the thing. According to experts, it's not necessarily game over. I mean, we're Generation Xers, man. We're known for being resourceful, right? We're the latch kid generation. We could look after ourselves all day. We'd be out playing until 6 p.m, in the streets. And then our mums would stand at the back door and yell, dinner, supper, or tea. Just use whatever is appropriate for you, depending on what part of the country you came for. You can debate that below in the comments. Anyway, what practical steps can we consider? Well, of course, the first thing is you've got to take control of your finances. Consider boosting pension contributions. I mean, even if you're in your 40s, if you can even do a small increase in what you're putting into your pension, that can make a massive difference over time. Look into additional voluntary contributions, AVCs, or salary sacrifice schemes if your employer has got them. They can be very tax efficient. Again, I'm not a financial expert or anything. This is just common stuff that a lot of people should know. It's about getting educated about finance. And make sure you claim your full tax relief. I mean, if you're a higher tax rate payer, you often need to claim that extra tax relief on your pension contributions through your self-assessment tax return. And many people miss that. And you can often claim it retrospectively for a few years. Now, if you do have a lot of investments, review your investments. Is your pension money working hard enough for you? Is it in funds that match your risk appetite, and how close are you to retirement? The default standard funds aren't always the best. Again, caveat here, I'm not a financial expert or going to give you any advice. Lost pensions. If you've changed jobs a few times, you might have old pension pots just scattered about. Again, I wish I did. I wish I had a lost pension at one of my former companies. But as I said, I didn't enrol. It's a good job. I should have. There's a government's pension tracing service. Might be able to help you find them. You can check your state pension as well. Go to the gov.uk in the UK. Look at your state pension forecast. Are there any gaps? Did you miss any national insurance contributions? Because, again, you can make voluntary contributions to those to boost it up to make sure your state pension is maxed out to the full. Another favourite of mine on this channel is tackle debt. Again, as I said, we're living in difficult times and often we think, well, we've got no money, to save. It goes on everything. But if anything, if you do have excess money and you've got debts, you're better off not saving that money and paying off the debts, because those debts like mortgages or high interest credit cards or loans, they're eating into any savings that you might be having. So I know it's horrible because you don't feel like you're investing or anything like that, but you are investing by paying off high interest loans, especially credit cards. Then you'll need less money in retirement. That's how I'm managing. I basically cleared all my debts so that actually I don't need as much money in my retirement. And as I've explained on this channel numerous times, pensions can feel like a complex minefield. Getting clear, impartial advice is absolutely crucial. And there are free services out there, especially in the UK. If you look for the independent services in the UK like Money Helper, which also includes PensionWise, it's all online. They offer advice and guidance for over 50s. Don't be afraid to use them, or, as I said, ultimately seek professional advice if you can. I think we need to rethink what retirement looks like. I mentioned it before on this channel. The traditional idea of stopping work completely at 65 or 67 might be changing. Many Gen Xers are looking for like a phased retirement, maybe working part-time, consulting, or even a less demanding second career. Working a bit longer, if you're able, can mean more contributions, more growth, and a shorter period your savings need to last, although you might be missing out on your go-go years, as I've mentioned. Research from Aviva, an insurance company, actually shows that 31% of us aged 45 to 54 think we'll never completely retire. Again, that's shocking. Look, these challenges are real for Gen Xers, and they're not just down to individual choices. There are bigger systemic issues at play. But as I said, Gen Xers, we're a resourceful bunch. We've navigated a lot of change in our lives. I guess the key message from all the research that I've done seems to be, don't stick your head in the sand, engage with your finances, explore your options, make a plan. It's not too late. Even small steps now can make a big difference down the line. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Are you a Gen Xer feeling the pressure? What are your biggest concerns? Put all of that, do you agree with me? Put them in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, then do me the great favor, please hit the likes, because I like it, YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content just like this. And if you're new to my channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, toggle that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I upload videos just like this. Talking of videos just like this, why don't you check out the videos right here? These ones here. Cheers.